Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Richie and Rogue's show. As you might see, myself and Rogue are in different locations tonight. So this is the first for us, Rogue, isn't it?
It is. You feel like miles away.
I know. I'm giving you a virtual hug anyway, but yeah, we're in different locations, and we're really excited tonight because, of course, we've been mentioning this week that our guest Howard Cox is with us live. I'm really excited to have you on, Howard. I think it's your first time on the Richie and Rogue show, isn't it?
It is indeed. I'm extremely honoured. I've waited for so long.
You were definitely number one on our list, but we obviously had a lot going on over Christmas and things like that.
We did indeed, yes.
We're so excited to have you on. And first of all, before we get into the show tonight, we'd like to thank every one of our subscribers, followers, and all of you that are supporting the channel here at Richie and Rogue. And thank you for your continued support as well. Please comment away. If you've got any questions for Howard tonight, please post them and we'll do our best to put them to him as well. Well, just as by way of introduction, Howard, I'll let him speak for himself, but we know him most famously for his relentless campaigning for FairFuel UK, which he's done for many, many years. So, Howard, I think it'd be good for you to introduce yourself to our viewers, actually. What is FairFuel UK? Why did you start it? And what are you hoping to achieve from it?
Yeah, I look back 15 years. In fact, this week, in fact, it's the 15th year anniversary of me founding it, or whatever the word is, however you want to say it. Yeah, back in early 2011, I was doing some consultancy work for various businesses and small businesses who really I was helping to trade out of problems. And I'm not an accountant, but I'm a marketing communications guy for many years. And I was helping small businesses. And I was working with one particular business who was a haulage firm. And he had about 50 big trucks. And one day I was sitting there in his palatial office having a cup of tea with him, and I noticed he had a P&L, profit and loss sheet on his table, and I noticed, I was being a bit cheeky because in my days of many years ago, because my original background is pharmaceutical marketing, and I remember when I was a rep all hundreds of years ago, I could read upside down. So I was reading upside down this profit and loss sheet, and there was a line particularly on it, a huge cost, and it was fuel. And he had about 40, 50 trucks, big articulated trucks. And I just sat there and I thought, bloody hell, it was something like 40% of his costs was fuel. And I thought, wow. And then I asked him, what about tax? He says, well, of that 40%, 70% of tax went to the government. And this is an essential resource, almost as essential as drinking water and having electricity and gas and all those sorts of things. And yet it's taxed at a level of nearly 70%. That's fuel duty and VAT. So I said, why isn't anyone fighting for you? He said, well, it's a fat lot of good getting the Road Haulage Association and the Freight Transport Association to do anything, because all they do is send a letter every year. Please don't put up fuel duty. And every year they ignore those letters. So I decided to set up a campaign with this managing director of this company. And that's how FairFuel UK started. And back in January 2011 is also the time when George Osborne and David Cameron were in charge, and David Cameron introduced a thing called an e-petition, and I was the first e-petition to get 100,000 signatures at that time, which I was quite proud of. In fact, it was equal first. The other one was actually the riots and fires in Croydon at that time. There was people talking about that. And so what happened then, I said, well, this is ridiculous. And I did some investigation and found out that the UK was the highest taxed motorists in the world. And the rest is history. There's a lot. I'm giving the impression it was easy. It bloody well wasn't. And the most important thing is to getting people on side. And I did get the RHA and the FTA and the RAC to sponsor me for nearly 13 years. But unfortunately, they dropped me in my 13th year because I don't support net zero, and they do. Now, go figure that a big haulage association with big diesel trucks supports net zero. Go figure. and so I set it up, built up, in the early days of social media. And I remember sitting in my external office in my house, and my wife feeding me with glasses of Merlot throughout the night. Um, I
What a good wife.
Yeah, she's a good girl, but she drinks more. She drinks more than I do. But anyway, I drank a lot of Merlot all through the night, and I built up the first. That's how I built the 100,000 for the petition at night. We only had that day. So there was lots of things then, but obviously we had Twitter and Facebook, and that was about it. There was not much else in those days, and I got to know about social media, built websites, etc. And then at that point, we managed to build up about 200,000 signatures as well, sign up and support, not members, just supporters. And we now got 1.7 million.
Wow.
But to be honest, Rogue, those 1.7 million, they've signed it. They're motorists. We got 37 million motorists in this country, drivers.
Yeah.
So I would really like to get 37 million signed up, but of which, they're very apathetic motorists and drivers. They're not very active, sort of in terms of an activist role. They don't actually go out and demonstrate. They just take it on the chin. Oh, petrol's gone up, penny, 10, that sort of thing. But there's no other tax that's impacted by tax going up and down than fuel duty, because it impacts on all our lives. Even if you're a vegan, even if you're a green, you still need to get your vegan burgers delivered by a diesel truck. You have to pay for these things. And so, so that's the history of me setting up FairFuel UK. And we've managed to get the success we got because I use objective measurement. I raised money to get paid for companies like the Centre of Economic and Business Research to do economic analysis to prove that increasing fuel duties costs jobs, increases inflation. I can go on forever, all the economic parameters that are negatively impacted by increasing fuel duty. And don't forget, as I said earlier, VAT is on fuel duty as well. It's a double taxation. I think that's immoral, but it's legal. They can do it. And so at the moment, we're looking at tax now on about 56, 58%. But even with that success of getting it frozen for 15 years, in fact, it's gone down 10% fuel duty because of the COVID time and also the invasion of Ukraine. Sunak did drop it by 5p. In the first budget, Osborne decreased it by 1 penny, and he was thoroughly pissed off with me because he didn't get the thanks for it, partly because oil's priced in dollars and the pound became weaker during that period, so he didn't notice the penny drop. But it may not sound a lot when I talk pennies, but when you talk about a truck that does 7 miles per gallon and does 50,000 miles a year, the amount of fuel duty and tax I've saved that one truck is nearly £500,000 in something like 15 years. So that's the sort of magnitude of the impact on the economy. But of course, I'm up against the Greens. I get death threats and all sorts of things from people. I get dog shit through the letterbox. All from people, that, I get things like, we know where you live and all that sort of crap. It's not just our three role in politics. It's, this is just a basic campaigning to improve people's lives and the cost of living and basically reduce inflation. That's all I'm about.
Yeah, it's crazy. Actually, crazy.
You're on the side of the people. Like, this doesn't make sense. Why are they putting stuff to your door? Why are they attacking you? None of this makes sense.
Well, there's two groups. There are the rabid Greens who believe that CO2 is bad for this, all that sort of thing, and the biggest prior, of course, is the car, the diesel engine, the petrol engine, which I can go on forever talking the science here on there. We got a good friend. Well, we've got a good friend in Paul Burgess, and you can do better than I can, and that sort of thing. But there's that one, and of course the other one, of course, is the ones that wear lycra. The ones, the cyclists, they hate me too. So that's basically FairFuel UK for you.
Yeah, and the petition that you went to 10 Downing Street, I have the clip here, Howard. I like to show our viewers. Unfortunately, it's on GB News, so forgive me for that. It's when they interviewed you. So I'm just going to play it for our audience because I think they need to understand the amount of effort and work that you have put in and the sacrifice that you have put in fighting on behalf of the British people on this double taxation on fuel and things like that. And it's not a small task. It's huge because you're having to interact with government ministers across the political spectrum, not just those in government, but also across party. And I know that you've done that very successfully for many, many, many years. And I'm just going to show our viewers a clip, and we'll be right back then. And I know Rose's got some burning questions for you. And we're going to move on to talk about your political journey, a little bit of your background and your relationships with Advance UK and others as well. So we're just going to play you this clip with your two good friends when you delivered that petition that you mentioned earlier at 10 Downing Street.
I'm here outside number 10 Downing Street, where a petition has just been handed in, almost a budget ritual of the campaigners for FairFuel UK, who are campaigning for this for the fuel duty to remain capped, as it has been for a number of years. And I'm joined now outside number 10 Downing Street by Lewis Cocking, the Tory MP, Lord McKinley, Craig McKinley, and Howard Cox, the founder of FairFuel UK. To you first, Howard Cox, how many have signed your petition?
Over 152,000, and we're delighted it had done that. And it could have been a lot more, but that's the time we've had to actually produce this. And so I'm delighted. Last year we had 130, this year 152,000.
And Lewis Cocking, why is this so important? Do you fear this government may lift fuel duty for the first time in many years?
I think they will. I think it's going to be a disastrous budget tomorrow, and they're really going to hit working people who they've said they will protect. This tax is one of the worst taxes we've got in this country, and will really hit hard-working carers that drive in our communities, and it will really hit the poorest in our society the most.
But Craig McKinney, do you understand, though, this government must raise money somehow? It has frozen fuel duty for so long, and they are moving towards electric vehicles. Is this not the correct policy?
Well, of course, they're just looking to spend. They can't seem to stop the spending tax, so they want to tax everything that moves. And literally, the thing that moves a lot in this country are vehicles. The EV promise of low taxes, that's likely to be broken with a new paper mile. Sadiq Khan is going to start raising congestion charge on EVs. The 5p fuel duty cut that we had during COVID, I have to say, is probably very highly likely to be lost this time. But it's the most regressive of taxes, going to hit the poorest hardest, all those who serve the community. And it could flow through the supply chain. It could even add 0.5% to inflation. So, I would beg this woman in number 11 not to do this. But sadly, I've got a feeling this might be yet another manifesto pledge that gets broken tomorrow.
And Howard Cox, for how long has it been frozen? Remind me when that happened.
Well, I started this campaign in 2011, and that's when Osborne was the Chancellor of Exchequer, and he actually reduced it by a penny, because at that time we were going to have a fuel price escalator, inflation plus 2 or 3 pence every year. And if it hadn't been for the campaigning work of good people like Craig and now with Lewis, we would have been seeing prices at pump probably 50p to £1 more at the moment. And let's not forget, at this very moment, we're still the highest tax drivers in the world.
And your sources are saying to you it could go up in April. This budget tomorrow, of course, will set out a lot of choices for April next year. The idea of doing it now is to give more time to make it happen.
Yeah, it's an unusual thing about taxes. Usually it happens at 12 o'clock at midnight, the changes. But last year she actually said that she's going to keep it frozen until April 26th.
I just find Lewis Cocking, it's a tax on white van drivers. That's how it's seen often when this is discussed, a tax on working people in vans.
Absolutely. This is a war on motorists. Labour do not care about the working people up and down the country. My constituents can't afford for fuel duty to go up. They go out day and night working, paying their taxes, and they cannot afford to pay any more. The Labour government needs to get a grip and cut public spending.
There we go. I know that the timeline's slightly different now, Howard, but one of the things you mentioned in there before I hand over to Rogue, you believe it's one of the highest forms of taxation that we have in this country. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. Something like the 5th largest tax receipts that come to the government comes from motorists. Obviously, you've got national insurance, income tax, VAT, and various other taxes, but the 5th one is you had something like £50 billion a year comes from the motorists. The privilege of going to work to pay for tax, the privilege of going to the hospital. So, you've got no choice. So all those sort of things. I could add you, Les. You heard him mention, my good friend Craig McKinley. You remember him? He's the bionic lord. He lost his limbs, and he's a very good friend of mine. And he was head of my all-party parliamentary group that I was secretary for about 3 years. And it was so heartbreaking to see he was on the verge of death. He had a 5% chance of living, and he's a super guy. And Lewis Cocking now, he's only 34, and he's more right of Attila the Hun than me. So I'm quite pleased that I've got some good people there. But those two are in opposition now. And of the 15 years I was campaigning, 13 years of them were with the Tories. And I built up great friendships with people like, you probably heard of a guy called Robert Halfon, MP for Harlow. and he's tremendous. He's another one. He's actually he walks around on crutches and that sort of thing. So he needs his vehicle, his car, and all that sort of thing. And we were very successful. The most important thing we did, and this is very important about campaigning, is that I actually got my supporters to contact their MP. And in the early days, back in 2011, it was very unique, emailing your MP, etc. But I managed to produce an advocacy app type system whereby you just type your postcode in. It's common as muck now, but then all they had to do, I gave them a templated letter which they could adjust and change or even disagree with, and they just press the send button. It goes straight through MP. And MP's got something like 2,000 emails each in the space of 48 hours. That's the sort of pressure they were saying. And when you've got a marginal seat where you've only won by hundreds, and the 2,000 people are saying, "Don't you dare put up fuel duty! I won't vote for you," etc. It put pressure on them. But I repeat, this is the sad thing about this, and this is very sad. Even now, diesel is still the highest taxed in the world here in the UK, even with our success. And that's and diesel is the commercial heartbeat of any economy.
Yeah.
If you tried, and Paul Burgess reminds everyone about this. I love what he says to me. I've been saying for a long time. To a 44-ton truck would need a 3-ton battery to actually carry around with it, and it would only take it 100 miles.
Yeah.
Now my daughter drives a 44-ton articulated truck, and she does.
Wow.
She does about 60,000 miles a year. At 7 miles per gallon, as it comes back to my point about how much we saved the haulage industry. And that's why I'm disappointed. I'm struggling this time for funding now. The first sort of, as I say, 12 to 13 years, I had about a funding income of about $250,000 a year. So that would pay for all the economics, everything else that's going through, all the work that was going on. But now I'm down to something like about £15,000 a year. And it's costing me personally a lot of money. Oh, my good friend Priti Patel, I know she's a bit like a Marmite character to some people, especially with regard to immigration, but she's been a fantastic supporter of FairFuel UK for years and years and years, as have most of the Tories backbenchers. And I was absolutely flabbergasted that in the first budget last year, or the year before last, of Rachel Thies, that she would actually. Everyone was saying she's going to put it up, and I actually predicted she wouldn't. I went on a Sun. We'll talk about media later, but I went on the Sun podcast show with Harry Cole, and he said, "What do you think is going to happen in the next week?" I said, "She's going to freeze it." And I was with other people who said, "No, she's going to put it up." I said, "No, she'll freeze it." And I also said, that was the day before the budget, that particular clip you put out there, Richie, and you heard Craig and Lewis said, "Oh, it's going to go up." He didn't ask me about me. I said, "No, she's not going to put it up." And I actually believe they're scared stiff of the motives if we get it right. They are telling us now they're going to put it up in the autumn budget by 2p, then in December by another penny, and then another 2p in the February afterwards. They're going to spread the 5p cut that Sunak did. But honestly, if they want growth and they want low inflation, you don't put up a tax.
No.
Absolutely. Rogue, over to you. I've still got lots of questions, but it's over to you, my co-host.
So my throat's going a little bit as well, so you have to bear with me. So going back, you used to work in the pharmaceutical world, didn't you? And I just have to say really quickly, when doing my due diligence and finding out how old you are, I need to know what your secret is. You are looking incredible, Sunshine. What do you use?
Well, I lost you. Just broke up just then, but I think you're talking about my age and what I'm 71 years of age, and I feel 150 with all this campaigning work, but I'm so angry with what's going on in our world. I'm just like you two, and you actually are very much a big stimulus to me in terms of your enthusiasm and your passion for what we've got to achieve, and we'll come on to that in a minute. But I've still, my job's not done, but the only problem I've got to do is I raise funds, and that's and it's quite interesting. I get a lot of phone calls coming in. They say, "Can I speak to your finance department, please, at FairFuel UK?" I put my headphone down. "Hello." It's just me and my darling wife who does a lot of the administration stuff, and there's no one else.
Andrew, hello.
Yeah, and it's interesting that there's a very good friend of mine. I keep his name secret for the moment, but he's been trying to get me knighted, right, for the work I've done. And but I've heard, and he's heard, and 2 or 3 other people have done the same. Because I'm in love with diesel and petrol, there's no chance Ed Miliband would actually sign that off. And I'm not sure if I take it. But the point is, isn't it interesting and how disingenuous when you see the type of awards offered to people for doing nothing, like hosting Strictly Come Dancing or something, whatever it's called, you get an OBE or something. These sorts of things really piss people off. And my anger comes on 2 planes. One is I'm fed up the driver being used as the cash cow, as it all the time. You know, whether it's parking, whether it's congestion charge, ULEZs, all those sort of things. Obviously, the fuel duty. And the other thing, of course, from my point of view, is what this government is doing to all of us in terms of our freedom to speak. And that's something that I'm very passionate about.
Yeah, and that kind of ties me with my next question, really, because you've got a really close affiliation with Tommy, and you know, you built up a friendship, you've supported him to the point that you actually left Reform for, you know, sort of the principle around Tommy and how he was treated. Now, do you think that's actually having, you know, a domino effect in the way that you are now being cancelled? Is that part of it, do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting, but if we just go back at one stage, it wasn't my good looks that Richard Tice and Nigel Farage asked me to stand as London Mayor. It's because I had 1.7 million supporters. You know, they wanted the database, they wanted that, which I can't give up. GDPR, I'm not allowed to do that. And I did appear on. I mean, I actually like Richard Tice. I think he's a bit weak, but I do like the guy. I know his fiancée Isabel Oakeshott quite well. People like that through the media. In fact, FairFuel UK has developed an incredibly decent load of respect from the national journalists. I mean, right across the spectrum. Even the Independent and the Guardian had to admit that I probably run the most successful public affairs campaign in the last 2 decades. You know, Peter Walker of the Guardian, he said that through gritted teeth. You know, a very left-wing paper that hates the motor car admitted that what I've done was quite good. Now, Richard and Nigel. You know, Richard asked me to stand, and it took me 3 months to say yes. And Nigel once said to me, he said, "That's the best idea I never had." You know, those sorts of things. And at that point, I was naive to believe that I would get a lot of support from the well. At that point, as you know, when I stood for London Mayor, Nigel wasn't the leader. Richard was, and our beloved Ben Habib was the deputy leader. And I opened one of their big conferences. I was the first speaker, and I stood. I'm your Reform UK candidate for London Mayor, and big cheer. Everyone stood up. It's wonderful. And I thought, this is it. I'm on my way to trying to do more, because I thought going that way. But how little did I know just how dishonest the people in the Reform headquarters leadership. On the day of the election of the ballot box, when I went to put my tick in a ballot box in Westminster. There wasn't one person from Reform headquarters leaders who came along, even with an iPhone, to take a picture of me, you know, walking out and saying, "I've just voted." You know, you'd expect that, wouldn't you? The only person that did turn up was Rupert Lowe. And Rupert, for that reason, is I got close to him as well. And anyway, I knew I wouldn't win, but I was hoping to get enough people to get on the assembly. We got one, which Alex Wilson, he's a good guy. And you know, and I have to say, the people that did campaign for me in London were lovely people, and I think we all know as grassroots reformers, I'm still in contact. They're still good friends. They're disappointed in me in one respect, but equally they're looking very closely, and a lot of them, I think, are near the tipping point of actually coming across to us even more so. But then, and then of course, Sunak stood in the rain to say he's going to be an election, and Nigel Sutton came flooding back, threw people out, dropped Richard Tice down and threw Ben out. And he asked me, could I stand down in the front line of immigration? I stood in Dover for an MP. And I thought, okay, I'll continue to do this. And there's a lot of things I could tell you on here, which might be a bit dodgy around the legal side. So I have to be careful.
Please do. Please go ahead. This is completely unfiltered, right? As long as you don't get sued or liable, we're all right.
Yeah. But I mean, I came second with 24% of the vote in 3.5 weeks campaigning down in Dover, and that's up against the guy Mike Tapp. You probably heard him. He's involved. He's actually a junior minister of immigration.
Can't stand the guy. Can't stand the guy.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because on the day of the count, it went up to 5 o'clock in the morning. He did walk up to me, and I think in a sort of way he said, "I was scared of you more than the Conservatives," and that don't forget that's the seat where Charlie Elphicke's wife, she walked across from the Tories to Labour.
Yeah.
And that's it's a really weird seat, but I got to know lots of people down there in Dover. But anyway, I did quite well, and I got a nice text from Nigel. Well done. I knew you do as well. If we'd have another 3 or 4 weeks, I might have nicked it. Who knows? But that's true. In fact, there are 98 people that came second in Reform in those right across the country. But this is the point I want to get across. I went on to various interviews after that, and one of the major interviews I went to was Dan Wootton's new show, his outspoken show, Uncensored. Sorry, you're outspoken, aren't you? I get confused.
We're unfiltered. He's outspoken.
Yeah.
No, he's a dear friend. I've known him for a long, long time. But he threw a bit of a curveball at me and said in an interview, and what do you think of Tommy Robinson? And I said, I don't know who he is, or I don't know anything about him really at all. And he said, you must know something. I said, well, the only thing I do know, he's alerted me to the fact of these child rape gang issues right across the country. I wouldn't have known anything about it if it wasn't for Tommy. And he said, yeah, that's true. We went talking a bit about it. Anyway, I got a text from Richard Tice, a WhatsApp text saying, if you continue to talk about Tommy Robinson in such glowing terms, we're going to suspend you, or we're going to throw you out of the party.
Wow. Well, actually, I'm going to clip you, Howard, just before you go on, because this ties in very well, actually, because Rogue asked that very important question, the relationship with different people who are involved in activism or politics sometimes can be quite challenging because we don't all agree, and we shouldn't all agree on everything. Of course, that's the beauty of democracy. And you were regular on GB News, Talk TV, mainstream media, the rags, the mags. But I got a clip here of you on Talk TV discussing just that. So I want our viewers to watch this, and then maybe you can comment and come back, and Rogue can come back with the follow-up to that in your relationship with the new party, of course, which we'll come to later, Advance UK. So just watch this, guys.
The issue for at the moment in time, and one reason why, well, the only reason I left is we haven't got free speech in Reform UK. I was criticised big time, about the Tommy Robinson thing. Yeah. I don't support Tommy Robinson, please. Everyone listening to him, viewing this, I don't support him, but I do support the fact that he's been trying hard to bring to the forefront this issue of the rape gangs. And obviously Elon Musk agrees with that. And because I mentioned that, I was told quite categorically 3 or 4 days before I resign, if I carry on talking about Tommy Robinson, I will be actually expelled from the party. And I'm sorry, I can't have that. I agree with 95% of everything in the Reform UK contract with the people, the manifesto. In fact, I helped put some of that together. So I still believe in it. And what I'm worried about is Nigel is moving a little bit moving left, closer to the middle ground, and we need something not on the far right. We just need Thatcherite policies again, small state, low tax, and protecting our borders. Those things are what I stood for and what I will continue to fight for. It's sad that I think there might be acquiescing towards the middle ground.
So I remember that interview actually, and when I pulled it up when I was putting the show together for this evening, Howard. I mean, obviously, what happened with you and Reform was widely documented and reported upon. I mean, just give us your inside kind of feelings about that, because we have a lot of people that have joined Advance UK that myself and Rogue have been discussing this actually, haven't we, Rogue? How it's easy to get bitter, it's easy to become revengeful if you feel you've been treated badly, and you get to the point where it becomes a slit in match against different political parties. But it's not so much that you've changed, it's the parties themselves have changed. That's the real issue, isn't it, really? It's not, I mean, look, I've been with 2 other parties, even though they think I've been with 15,000 parties. I've only ever been with 2. And I've never changed. My political views have remained the same consistently ever since I got into politics. It's just the parties that I was with at the time
That's my
change.
dog, by the way. My dog's barking. Sorry.
I thought your tummy was growling.
So would you say that's the case with you, Howard? You've seen
Yeah.
a shift in these parties. Could you just give us some insight into that? And then I know Rogue's got some burning questions as well around, you know, some of those issues and relationships and how they've impacted you.
Well, I have to say to you that I was hurt beyond belief, because I gave up something like 18 months of my life, 7 days of my week, 15 hours a day, to stand for reform, whether it's at the London Mayor or as an MP down in Dover. And I don't regret doing that. But little things started to start showing, which, from my point of view, the writing was on the wall. I started seeing things, and there wasn't a democracy in the party. You would, if you didn't agree with Nigel, or later came on with Zia Youssef, who spent £200,000 for a seat on the the operations aspect of reform. But I was quite loyal to a lot of people that were very, very loyal to me in London. I went on to something like 46 ULEZ protests across London. 46. There was about 100 of them, but I went to nearly 46 of them. And there was lots of things happening. And I didn't get pushed onto media. For example, LBC had an interview with all of the major candidates. And obviously now reform would be number one asked, but my media advisors, or the people in the headquarters of reform, didn't push hard enough to get me media coverage. And I was the only one offering ULEZ completely to be removed, and even paid back all of the ULEZ expansion fines and fees completely. I also suggested that we have police access points in 24-hour outlets like supermarkets and McDonald's and things like that. I could go on forever, the sort of things which were very popular. But there is no way that reform took me seriously, and I realised I was just a little stooge for them at this point. And I have to say, it hurt. And I've known Nigel for 15 years. I mean, I wrote some of the European Parliament election manifesto for when I think it's 2015, on transport, and that's where I gave birth to 20p off fuel duty we should have, and that's now still in their main part of their policies. And there's lots of other things like that. And I just can't believe how, the fact that I support Tommy Robinson. I didn't know him from Adam. But in the end, I got to know a guy called, we all know, is Paul Thorpe. And Paul Thorpe said, Paul, bless his cotton socks, who's much closer to Tommy than I was at that time, he said, Howard, I think I can get you into his prison, and you can go and see him for yourself. And that's what I had to do. I wanted to find out this guy, what I'd actually said about this guy was so important. And I spent 2 hours with him in the Woodhall prison, of which I spoke for 5 minutes. Tommy is inspirational. It was an absolute revelation meeting the guy. He's encyclopedic brain. He comes from Luton. I come from. You'll find after a couple of Merlots, my Southeast London Cockney comes out of me. That sort of thing, and you'll find that. And we've all got past that maybe not angelic. Nor did Gandhi, and nor did Nelson Mandela. We can go for all those sorts of things, but that guy is a patriot. He cares passionately about this country, and he cares passionately about our children, our girls, our women in this country who've been systematically raped. And if anyone says that is wrong for me supporting that aim, I'm over the moon. I've left reform, by the way. It's the best decision I've made in my life, and I've met some new people, as you know. We're going to talk about Advance in a minute. But in answer to your question, Richard, the inner sanctum of and I was at the headquarters of that because I was supposedly a major player in terms of standing for London Mayor. I got to know a lot of the people behind Nigel, and all I can say to you is I wouldn't trust them ever with anything. They are devious. They all carry stilettos to put on your back when you're not looking, and these are the sorts of things that I came across. There are good people there. I mean, I still have a fondness for Richard Tyson, Lee Anderson. Those people. If you sat round the table with them over a glass, they probably agree with 99 times out of 100 of the things that we're fighting for, Richie Rogue. I think you'd agree. But unfortunately, the vice-like hold that Nigel has over the people because he is totally and utterly seen as the Messiah. He can walk on water, all those things within whatever he says goes. And you've probably seen my comments about Layla Cunningham I on Dan Wootton's show recently. You know, the mistakes they're still making, and again, I feel as though he's making yet another big mistake.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rogue, do you want to come back on some of that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, for me, just like new to the political world, it is really dark. It is really, really kind of, like you said, they have their stilettos, put them on your back, and they're just trampling all over you. And it's just really ugly. And I think sometimes, though, when people have said, and this is not me saying it, but people have said, you know, look, you know, advance is just really bitter. You've got a lot of people who are ex-reformers who are coming across, and basically they are just so bitter towards Farage. It is just obvious, because in a lot of like the rhetoric that we are saying. But the truth is, we're calling it out for what it is. You know, there has been these issues, that there have been, you know, sort of where you've gone through what you've got in Ben. I mean, whatever Ben's gone through, that's been horrific for him too. With Rich, you know, as well. You've all chosen to leave, but you see, Rich, you don't feel that Farage treated you badly, do you?
No, certainly. When I got involved in 2016 during the referendum, and then stood for reform in 2019. Nigel was supported me massively. I mean, he came to my constituency twice. Albeit my seat was a target seat, and as you know, Howard, in the political world, if you're a target seat with a chance to win, Farage will throw everything at it, you know, including finances, which he currently has a lot of. I've been receiving one of the largest donations in British history, which I'm hoping Advance UK is going to get as well at some point. And maybe Elon Musk will put his hand in his pocket. Wouldn't that be a nice thing? But as Rose just said there, the political world can be very, very dark sometimes, and there's a lot of backstabbing that goes on, and you have to be very resilient and very thick-skinned and not take things personal. But I think one of the things I've noticed about you, Howard, is your ability to work cross-party. And I think what is essential is that Advance UK, although we have been sidelined as a far-right party, which we all know that we're not, people don't realize, actually, we're decent people. We just love our country. You know, we believe in our Christian constitution and our heritage and all those things that made Great Britain and Northern Ireland great, you know, and we believe in those things. And I think people forget that. But before I ask you the next question, Howard, and bring Roe back in, I've got to read this comment because I thought it was so funny. And it's one of our regulars, Nikki. She said this: when your dog barked, she put this up. Haha. I thought Howard was hiding the ginger growler. Blame it on the poor dog. I'm so sorry. I had to, Nikki, thank you for that. I had to put that up. Oh, hilarious.
The ginger growler. I love it.
Yeah, well, we know who she's referring to there. I mean, Rogue's done some videos on that on our shorts, so make sure you check that out, guys. It's quite hilarious.
I would come up, and oh my goodness, it was quite amusing. But my point is, you know, in regards to, you know, sort of how we are and how we present ourselves as Advance UK and people who have been burnt, like you said, you were hurt, you know, do we not need to concentrate on what we're doing in advance rather than batting off and kind of saying what reform are doing? Because I think it just does look like what they are calling us out for. And I want to be in our lane, looking after our party, knowing what we're doing and how we're doing it. And our focus has to be on saving this country. So sort of having spats with other people on what we've gone through, we all need to heal together as collective when we know that we've been burnt or been hurt. You know, so if somebody wants to come across, or if somebody has been burnt, you know, what advice would you give them?
Well, I suppose it's because it was an acute situation at the time. It's like anything, an acute pain, it hurts. But the chronic pain, it actually subsides usually. And my feeling, I still got a huge respect for Nigel Farage. He's the best communicator, best orator I've ever seen on the planet. Without notes, I've seen him do incredible things. He's also been kind to me, like you Richie. You know, all sorts of things. I've been to many a pint and had a more than I should do in various Mayfair pubs with him. And he's been massively complimentary about FairFuel UK. But your point about across all parties is very important, because for the first, right up until me accepting the London mayor. I insist. Loads of people. I mean, one of the things about the London mayor, I was asked by the Tories, and it was reported by David Maddox, who's now an independent. He was in Express. He reported that he got an internal memo from the Tories. We should ask Howard Cox to stand for the Conservative Party for London mayor, and because he's much better than Susan Hall. And that was unfair on Susan. I felt for her from that because I was quite friendly with her.
Yeah.
But the thing is, this cross-party thing, Fairfield UK was always apolitical. There's a lot of petrol heads in Labour. Believe it or not, even Zach, whatever his name, I noticed he was driving a Ford something the other day, which happened to be, in one of his things, the Green leader. And I had to remain apolitical. And it took me 3 months to say yes to Richard to stand for London Mayor. And the only reason I stood is because 2 reasons. One is the ULEZ expansion. It fitted well with Fairfield UK, the whole impact of taxing motorists. And the other thing is Sadiq Khan had to go. We all know, there are 2 pathological liars in the league table of Premiership of lying, and we know who they are: Starmer and Khan. And Rogue, your point about actually, what do I say to someone who's coming across? I try to stay off reform as best I can, because next week, I think, 2-3 weeks time, we launch our first policy on immigration. That's coming out. I want us to talk about our policies. That's what I want to talk about. And that's one reason why I was upset with when I was knocking on doors down in Dover. One fantastic tax policy or reform was you would not start paying tax until you earn £20,000. It will go up from 12.5 to 20,000. I knocked on doors of that. People said, yes, please. And you've got young people in there saying, oh, well, I don't have to pay tax. Wow, that's great. Oh, I'm going to vote for you. That's what I did. They get into a situation now after the election. It's now an aspiration. It's not a policy that they've got. And I was lying to those people when I knocked on those doors. And that's what I don't like. And this is to both of you and all your viewers, I'm saying this: I can't stand lying in politics. You will not ever hear me lie. And I would say to Ben Habib and all the rest of you and the people on the college that I'm part of, I would say to you that I will not agree with anything just for the sake of agreeing with it. And I'm going to be difficult. If we do get into Parliament, I'm going to be difficult to be whipped. I'll tell you that now. We've got to stick to our manifesto.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Rob, I was going to say on that point with the relationship with political parties, when Advance UK launched, I think people saw something very different from what we've been used to with Reform, if you like, because it was uniquely a very different party in so many different ways. I mean, one of the reasons why I resigned actually wasn't because I was treated badly. I think, Rob, we mentioned this on the last live on Wednesday night. My reasons were the constitutional changes that they made, the fact that Zia Youssef bought his chairmanship for a donation of £200,000, which I find so undemocratic, and the way that they spoke of Tommy Robinson, in particular Richard Tice, calling us that lot. And also, in fact, Tommy now is actually taking legal action, I believe, against Nigel Farage for accusations that have been made against him from the past, because, of course, it's a defamation of character. And I find that very dirty. We know politics is a very dirty game. And Rogue has been speaking to me a lot, actually, together. We've been chatting about this, how Advance UK really needs now to push forward with not what the Reform have done to people or done to us, but what we can do for the country, what we can do to save the United Kingdom, because we know, we're on the precipice of this country, going down a road that is never going to recover from. Hence the reason why Ben Habib started the party. Why did you join Advance UK then? How did that come about?
Actually, looking back at it, I've got to think very carefully. Because of what happened, and I was threatened with this expulsion from the party, I basically contacted Ben Habib. I said, because he'd been pushed out, and I said, what do you think I should do? And his exact words, Howard, if I were you, I'd resign and get out before they push you out. And I said, okay, I think you're right. And I discussed it with Jenny, my wife, about the whole thing, about what I want to do. Reform, it was history at that point. I had no future in my desire at that point to continue in politics. But then I met Ben Habib. And we all know what Ben Habib is. And I went up and sat in his office, and he showed me lots of things, emails about some of the things that, because he was trying to democratise the Reform Party at the time. And he was basically shat upon from a great height by Nigel on a regular basis. And there was, you got the business with Harborne giving money, from Thailand, etc., and all those sorts of things. He fundamentally was an honest person, and I hadn't seen that. And I got to know him, and then he mentioned to me about his relationship with Rupert Lowe, and he was saying that they were thinking of setting up a political party with Rupert Lowe as the leader. And I said, well, I'm interested to know more about it. And that's really how my position, I was one of the early ones to get involved. I mean, I don't really want to be involved in any leadership aspect of any political party, but I'm happy to contribute. And I'm still not sure if I'm going to be standing as an MP, even though when we had our college meeting last week, which you were missed. You were absolutely missed. But, I spoke to people like David Starkey was there, and, there was Andrew Eborn and Dan Wotton were there. And, of course, our dear friend Sarah White and all the people, the good and the great were there. And nearly everyone said, you are going to stand. And I've met the regional directors for the South East, which is where I live, Robert and Judith and Cher. And we had a long chat, and I wouldn't say they're begging me, but they're really impressing on me. We could do with you standing as an MP. But as I'm 71. If this election is in 2029, you're looking at, I'm going to be 74. Mind you, there's loads of people that have been old in that sort of thing. And if I can keep my faculties about me, I may do it. But a lot depends. My petunias in the garden are suffering a bit at the moment, so I should be tending them.
I was going to say, on that point of the college, just for you to know, I don't know if you got the announcement, but I did put out a public statement that I stepped down from the college because there's a conflict of interest, Howard. You can't stand to be an elected official or to be a member of parliament. And of course, we got the Senate elections in May this year, local elections in 2028. And of course, 2028, 29, we got the general election. And so Welsh media, you in particular, have jumped on the back of that straight away. I've already been slated by a journalist called Martin Shipton, etc. That tends to happen. Your microphone is off, Rogue. Your mic, we can't hear you. I think, the reason that was the reason why I stepped back from the college, because I like you, I was involved right at the start. I think it was three of us, myself, you and Jim Ferguson. And now it's built up with, a bunch of great minds, great people, very enthusiastic, very passionate for their country, with great minds will be the ballast of the party to hold Ben to account. Things that you've already mentioned, and to hold those principles up high: freedom of speech, according to the law, democracy and sovereignty in all of its parts and everything. Rogue, did you want to ask something? Because I want to get onto the cancellation bit a little bit later, but I can see you've got a burning. Even though by the way, folks, we're not in the same studio. It's not because we've fallen out, right? It's just because I'm down Clethley looking after my mum, right? So, so I'm not in our normal studio. I'm down in Clethley, and she's up in Powys there. So because someone left a comment on there, Rogue, saying, "Has Rogue kicked Richie out of the studio?"
I have, yeah.
Rogue, what did they say?
No, I think, I just wanted to kind of go back to and touch base on the Tommy Robinson. And I understand the story, like how it all sort of evolved. But, now we're going into the cancellation thing. Like, I want to bring an honest element here, because I am very brutal, and I say it as it is. We absolutely love the fact that Tommy has become a member, but because of our affiliation to him, we keep on getting cancelled. And we have tried to do 3 or 4 different, events. And because of our affiliation to Tommy, we have that cancellation. So my question to you is, do you think, because of your affiliation to Tommy, because of your friendship, because he's a member in advance, is that why you are being cancelled? Or is it something completely different?
No, it is totally because of Tommy Robinson. Absolutely. I've got some tremendous friends, really good friends in Talk TV, GB News, and Times Radio, and a few other places. And I wrote regularly for The Sun. I was even paid to write for them, and it was quite good money. That sort of thing. It was always about motoring, fuel duty, etc., and parking or something like that, or all those sorts of things related to it. And this is the interesting journey, and just be patient with me. This, when I joined Reform, the Sun said, "Oh, we probably won't use you so much writing." Now, this is an interesting one, and I said, "Why is that?" It said, "Well, we regard, and these are very senior political figures, right up to near as damn it the editor, journalists, and they said, yeah, we just don't trust Nigel Farage. He's a snake oil salesman. We just don't like him." That's what they said to me, the Sun. Now, the interesting thing about that is that obviously I thought, okay, fine, you can do that. There's a very dear friend of mine who's a features editor there, and he said the same thing to me. He said, "Howard, we love you. We want you to, can you write? You get always a great load of comments and letters coming in after you've written something in the Sun. But the fact you've joined with Reform, and bear in mind, this is the situation you've got to understand, is that the Sun, they actually recommended Tony Blair and they recommended Starmer this time. Both times. They only go after winners. They only go after who's the leader in the poll. Now, Nigel is in the poll leadership. He gets articles galore in the Sun.
Yeah.
In fact, 2 days ago, he had 3 articles on the political news page, one of which was about fuel duty. And the Sun and I worked together so closely on fuel duty, even to the extent they used to write in their editorial opinion poll, "We love FairFuel UK. Howard Cox's done a cracking job," and all that sort of thing. They took me out for dinner, lunches, you name it, all over the place. Now they won't even mention me. And it's interesting. Now Nigel's in with them. As soon as I mentioned the Tommy Robinson thing, they won't mention Tommy Robinson at all. They don't want to know anything about him. They think he's a crook, all the other bits and pieces. And Rogue, your point about, is it down to Tommy Robinson? Yeah, it is down to Tommy Robinson now. Everything about it. Even the last week or 2 days, 3 days ago, I was asked to go on GB News about that page about fuel duty, which Nigel wrote a bit on. And also I was on Martin Dalden's show and Ian Collins' show, on who both are very good friends. I know Martin really loves Nigel, but these people, I've had lots of beers, meals, and things, and even to the extent, that I know a lot about them. I could easily reveal, but I'm not going to. But Ian Collins particularly is a good friend, because he in that time he got paid some money to run my podcast for me in the London Mayoral campaign. He's got a business that basically does various things like that. But I was cancelled within 45 minutes of going on each of those, and I asked one of the producers, says, "Well, I'm sorry, but we've been told because you're close to Tommy Robinson." He actually said it to me on the phone, and there you go.
Well, I was going to say that.
What revelation?
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's what a revelation. I mean, to get to that point, that the MSM are cancelling us. Do we really need MSM? That's another question. Can we not do what we're doing with our legacy media? Can we not start to, sort of, Ben's obviously got his podcast, we're doing this, you're doing your thing. Do we really need the MSM?
Well, we all know what's happening. About 20 years ago, the Sun had a circulation of 7 or 8 million. It's now got a circulation of less than 1 million in terms of the paper side of things. The answer is there will all be a place for something like a paper thing, because there are older people that do not know how to use things. I'm an old git, but I still like opening a paper. I do, and I still like opening a book. That sort of thing. But I've taught myself in the last 30 years the technology. I've moved along with both, but I think with the rise of the citizen journalists, of which Tommy is one of them, and the independent journalists, when you see like Maya Tusi, I see he's just done a tweet criticising GB News for putting out some support in Iran, because he's very close to people. I went to his wedding and I'm quite close to Maya. And Dan Wotton, of course, he's hit, I don't know how many millions, whatever they are. You've got Paul Thorpe, you've got Richard Inman, you can go on forever. If you add all those together, they are beating hands down everything else to do with Sky News, BBC News. And you look at Mike Graham, even though we don't share the same, Mike Graham can't stand Tommy Robinson, but Jeremy Kyle's show, Taking Over Breakfast, it's got a quarter of what Mike Graham's got, and he's only just started his YouTube channel. So you're Rogue, you've got it. I don't think we do need them to actually make a difference, and I think Advance is doing well in spite of MSM. And I'm not sure if we do any much better. But as soon as we get into the polls situation, like with Alex Stevenson up in Derby and you in Wales, and I do respect you, Richie, for your decision making. You're absolutely right. And I was talking to someone else about it. They were saying, where is Richie? In fact, it was Kathy Gingle said, "Oh, what's happened there?" She thought it was something sinister. I said, "No, it's part of our constitution. You cannot be on the college and stand for election. It's as simple as that." And he's coming up, and with your elections coming out in the Senate, as far as I'm concerned, I'll be up there helping you, whatever you want me to do. I'm hoping to get up there to Derby this week with Alex, but I've got a few things tied up because unfortunately I'm still running FairFuel UK.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, firstly, if Mayor Tusi is watching this, apologies. Myself and Rogue were invited to his wedding, but we got the dates wrong. Do you remember?
I
didn't get the date.
There's a conference and a wedding, and Rich literally confused the two of them.
You missed the bloody good do.
I know, mate. I know. I want to keep this kind of theme going for a moment. You said you were effectively being cancelled by mainstream media. When did you first notice a shift in how often or whether you were invited on? Were you ever given a clear reason for it? Why you were being dropped? Was it more of a silent kind of disappearance? Did you think it was about your views, your tone, or the topics and stuff like that you insisted on raising? And has it affected your campaign for FairFuel since you've become a member of the College of Advanced UK and a member and obviously an advocate for Ben Habib?
When I first noticed it was the time around the sun when I joined Reform. That's when because I've been writing for the Sun for 8 or 9 years before I was involved with any politics. And all they knew about me, I was fighting on behalf of the motorist. And the Express, the Mail, the Telegraph, the Sun, and a couple of other papers like that. The BBC, I was on Politics Show, and all those sorts of things. I was the person to go to talk about taxation of motorists. That was my raison d'etre as such. But gradually, as I got into politics, you could see the polarization towards me in terms of, this guy. Who is he? What is he doing? I thought he was a motorist campaigning champion. But what we're seeing now, he's becoming a politician, and he's very and I was accused of being a bit far right. That came out. I didn't get the thug thrown at me at that point, but and I think but it hurt me. Hurt is the wrong word. I was disappointed with GB News and Talk TV because I went out drinking with people like Julia Hartley-Brewer, Mike Graham. All the gang there, Jeremy Kyle, having pints with them, Peter Cardwell, and at GB News, I got to know people like Chris Hope, and obviously I met Dan Wootton there first off, and Mark Dolan, and that. Even I met Andrew Neil when he was there for about 3 minutes, because he started GB News, at the beginning, and all the people I used to come in, all the people behind the scenes there said, "Oh, hello." That I got to know all the makeup girls, and they all sort of thing. But then suddenly. As soon as I moved from being just a campaigner fighting the motorist champion to also standing potentially for a political post, whatever that is, an MP or mayoral thing, I noticed people just stood back a bit, and it didn't hurt at that point. But obviously, because the Tommy Robinson was the cliff edge, I went from. Having said that, LBC asked me on last week, and so did 5 Live. Asked me, Nikki Campbell asked me to go on. I don't think they've noticed those two. And I won't go onto LBC. I just can't bear that thing, and unless it's Nick Ferrari, because he's a bit of a petrol head. But everyone else, I ignore. I am actually turning people down because I find I actually find them not helpful. And answering Richie's salient point about how's it affecting FairFuel UK, the Sun relationship is a problem because the Sun what won it, the Sun that kept it down type campaign always involved me, and they also got data from me, market research. Bear in mind, one of the big things I've got having such a big supporter base, I asked them, what will you do if we took 20p off fuel duty? And they, people say pay off their debts, spend it in the shops and all that sort of thing, help the market, stimulate the economy, those sorts of things. And then we ask small businesses who say, we'd buy more cleaner kit if I had more money to, rather than spending it on fuel, all those sorts of things. And the whole message, and this is the saddest thing, Richie and Rogue, is that when I deal with MPs on the green benches who are not in government, or not even in the shadow government cabinet, they are all over me like a rash. They love it. They love FairFuel UK. They want to be associated with it and all that sort of thing. As soon as they walk across into cabinet, they suddenly lose the fact that actually cutting fuel duty is good for the economy. It's oh god. And you heard Chris Hope asking, I think it was Lewis Cocking in that interview. He said something. Don't we need to put up fuel duty? It's been frozen for so long. No, you don't. We need to cut it and stimulate the economy. Wake up and smell the coffee. And that's why ignorant MSM political interviewers, and I hate the political commentator, by the way. They're all, some of them haven't even shaved a lot, and they're only about 12 years old, and they go onto these programs. Yeah, exactly. But you see my point.
I haven't shaved earlier, so I do.
Do you know, Howard, if I can just jump in there, because the question I have here is quite poignant, actually. Do you actually believe that the British media still fulfills its role of challenging power, or has it become risk averse? Is impartiality sometimes used as a justification to exclude dissenting voices, for example? And in your view, is cancellation today driven more by politics, corporate pressures, or fear of controversy? And have journalists privately agreed with you, but then they couldn't platform you, but they agree with you?
That's exactly right. I mean, many off air, I get, especially when I go into the BBC, oh, you're doing a great job, Hal. Fantastic. And I asked her, what do you drive? I said, oh, I drive an old Peugeot 504. What is it? Diesel. Great. What do you get to the gallon? They said that we get this conversation going with the person. But then they go on air, and I'm thinking, who's actually pulling the strings and orchestrating this? And it comes back to the globalist in me, the people in the globalist sort of things, the dictating. And that's what's happening at the Sun. Rupert Murdoch and things like that, they've gone on the side of the net zero, is a good thing. CO2 is a horrible, it's a pariah. We all know about CO2. If you double it from 0.04 to 0.08, Africa would green up. That's the sort of thing these are the sorts of things. And, I've been talking about this for a long time. And we both know David Rhodes, and he's looking after policy. He's a cracking guy. I wasn't on the immigration one, but I've been on the energy one. We've been talking net zero. I think we've got a Zoom tomorrow night to talk it through, the next stage of it. But fundamentally, I don't see anywhere else that anyone is telling the truth than that is happening in Advance UK. When at that meeting in London at our AC club with all of us together, Ben gave his speech, and so did Richard Thompson, who's our national director. Getting down to the grassroots, driving people, etc. Cracking guy, all that sort of thing. But when you talk to people individually, I am so optimistic about people telling the truth and actually with a brain on them. And they've got a brain on them to understand that this is logical. We may not, there's no doubt about it, that we've got to be hard on the areas we've got to be hard on. We've got to scrap net zero, and we've also got to reduce the size of the civil service. Those two things are going to be a massive impact on people, because the green jobs will disappear. We don't need them.
Absolutely.
So look, you for 15 years, because you said it's your anniversary, didn't you? Was it this week?
Yeah.
It's your anniversary, 15 years. So you have even admitted that this hasn't just been an easy ride for you. This has been a tumultuous, turbulent time trying to kind of get to where you've gotten to. And I guess I would want to know, if you had other campaigners that are actually afraid of being sidelined, what advice would you give them to actually encourage them to still going forward?
Well, it's very simple. Stick to your guns. Stick to your belief in your campaign. You've got to be on the right side of history. I'm going to talk about this. I'm talking to a lot of people about net zero. There are a lot of good people fighting that. We learned today, I think the Daily Mail published it. I've known about it for a long time, as has Paul Burgess, Brian Catt, loads of people that have actually, decent people have actually shown the truth with facts. That, the cost of net zero is going to be £4.3 trillion to our economy. I mean, I prove with I had to spend a lot of money, and this is the sad thing about it. I got the CBR, very superb, highly respected group of economists, prove that the 2030 ban on diesel and petrol new car sales would cost 5 times more than the benefits. Now, wake up and smell the coffee. We're only 3 years away from actually that we could not be able to buy a new diesel and petrol car in this country. Yet guess what's happened? Europe have woken up a bit. They've moved theirs back from 2035 to 2040. And I are bombarded. I've got my supporters to write to Rachel Rees, Ed Miliband, Heidi Alexander, the transport, the various people, the press officers in number 10, Starmer himself, to say, why don't we follow the lead of EU? If you're so much in love with the EU, why not follow their lead and drop it to 2040? But the campaigner, I would tell a campaigner, stick to your guns. I'm not going to actually just acquiesce and just kowtow just because I'm not covered on MSM. No way. Thank heavens we've got internet, and let's hope that, I mean, Rupert Lowe has come out. That was a Freudian slip, wasn't it? Rupert Lowe is a good friend. I see he's coming out saying he's going to take Starmer and the government to court if they try to cancel X. You know, these are the sorts of things that stick to your guns. Money does speak, though, and I'm hoping that people like Bill Gates will end up in prison for all the things he's done. He's been they're trying to get him from The Hague, etc. But from my point of view, I'm not giving up on the fact is that I believe the motorist is the heart of communication. It's the greatest freedom. It's the safest thing. Driving through London is safe. Walking through London is bloody dangerous. So all those sorts of things, we've got to get that message across. And going back to right at the beginning, Rogue, what you said is that we mustn't knock the opposition or not anyone else. We just talk about our policies and how we can deliver and talk factually and honestly. We'll get there.
Absolutely. So just going, you have got signatures. If somebody wanted to actually now sort of sign up and come along with what you're doing and support you and back you, how do they do it?
Yeah, I'm actually probably writing a book or something, a novel. Actually, I was going to try and make it a bit of a drama about actually, the secret life of a public affairs campaign. It's a slog, Rogue. It's an absolute slog, love. From a point of view of what I do, getting people, and even today, I mean, I see Richie's got about 70 or 80,000 followers. After my 15 years, I've still only got, I think, just under 40,000. You know, in Twitter, and my daughter keeps saying, "Why are you not on TikTok, Howard, and Instagram?" You know, she keeps saying, "Well, you should do that." My problem is lack of staff, lack of support, and those sorts of things. But I've achieved with what I've done, and the fact I've got. I mean, when I send out an email shot to my supporters, I don't send it to 1.7 million. They're just on it. Most of those people are just happy to be associated with FairFuel UK. There's 250,000 of that 1.7 million are very active for me. They're the ones I work on. So and it's costly to send 250,000 emails out, not because of the actual mechanics of it. It's because you've got to make damn sure you're not blacklisted, you're not spam listed, those sorts of things. You send that amount out, Google, Hotmail, Yahoo, and all that lot put you on the spam list and that sort of thing, and you get blacklisted. So signatures are important, but the most important thing, and you know, I think in Advance UK we're over 40,000 members now, and Ben's target, as we all know, is 1 million. What we've got to try. I think he's optimistic on that. And Ben, if you're listening, mate, I'm not giving up on that aspiration. We're still going to go for it. But I think if we get to if we get to 250,000 members, which supposedly, allegedly, Reform has, even though most of those have tried to leave.
I know, and you still get your emails, and you're still part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think if we get to 200,000, 250,000, I think we got 100% chance of forming a government. I really do. I don't think we have to think of numbers. A million is an emotional number, but I think I've done most of my work in stimulating and impacting on the government, and you hit them where it hurts in terms of their margins on their seats. You know, by getting a step back, one step. Get the facts right, and that's why I get the economics. I pay for that sort of thing. Put those together. One thing. Get the story right. Do some market research of your supporters. Obviously, they're biased towards me. I don't care. I'm regularly criticised by YouGov and Comres saying, "Oh, good, that's not classic market research." I said, "Well, you pay yours to answer your questions. You're given book tokens. I don't. I just ask, what would you do? What would you do with 20p cutting fuel duty? Some of the questions. Do you want the ULEZ expansion going past your house? Like all those sorts of things. And it comes back as an opinion piece. But I get 70,000 responses.
Wow.
And You can't dismiss 70,000 voices,
No.
and they're all audited. You can look at it and everything. Obviously not their names because GDPR, but I can show you, cross out the end of it, and that's that 150,000 I presented stood in number 10, and I've done it every year with various MPs. They were carrying those books. I don't know if you've seen them, great big books, A3 books. And obviously, I use about a 36 font size to carry it to make it even bigger. But in there, I've obviously got Jim Ferg, and his email is jf at something. So it's all blocked out. It's been redacted, those bits.
Yeah.
But no one has ever challenged me in government to say, are these real things? I wish they would, because they'd be more embarrassed by it. But the fact is, you have to get the grassroots on side, Rogue. That's what any campaigner must do. And you've got to get the grassroots to speak for you. People are probably fed up the back seat, like you are probably now, my voice. The most important thing for people is for grassroots to hit their elected politician hard. And one of the sad things that's happened since I've been doing it since 2011, with that e-petition and various advocacy email shots I do to hit MPs and ministers, is that I noticed I only did it today. I've put all of the MPs' email addresses into a thing which actually validates email addresses to make sure you can deliver to them. And there's about 8 categories of one of them. Are they spam traps or whatever? Anything? They're not spam traps, but something like Keir Starmer at Parliament.uk, that sort of thing, is now coming up with unreachable, and that's worrying. But they're not unreachable; they're called unknown. But what they're doing now is they're diverting emails to various, what I would say, folders, and they're not looked at now.
Yeah, I think I want to give you credit here as well. To a lot of people, you're a thorn in the flesh, of course, a lot of politicians. But at the same time, you're a rose to the British citizens, because we love the fact you're fighting to lower tax when it comes to motorists in particular. But it's your passion. We've had the privilege, myself and I, of meeting you a number of times, and you when you meet someone, you instantly connect with them, and you're one of those people. I don't know if anyone ever said this to you, that we find we had that with you. And what we need in politics is more and more people like you. People who get it, people who understand it. And I think what we've had over the years is politicians who are very eloquent. And you mentioned Farage being able to give great, oratory and speeches. We need more than that. We need more than slogans. We need serious policies that will really deliver change and not offer people false hope. And Advance UK is providing that vehicle right now. Rogue and I have been traveling throughout Wales, and we are continually doing that. In fact, this week coming, Rogue, we're in 3 different parts of Wales, aren't we? And meeting our members and, fighting against the opposition, wherever they might be. So, and having to keep things secret sometimes as well. It's just ridiculous. We get cancellations. But I just want to say thank you to you personally, Howard. Because I think you put your neck on the line, you put your head above the parapet when you didn't need to do that. And I think what people don't realize is when you get involved in politics, you become a target, right?
Yes.
You were running FairFuel. You didn't need to do this, but you obviously recognized the state of the country, the state of the nation. Yeah. And at your age, like you've said, why do I want to get involved in politics again? And so if there are people watching the broadcast right now live, or those who are watching this back, I want you to understand something. Politics affects every part of your daily life, whether you know it or believe it or not. It really does. And if you want to see change, you have to engage with it. You have to be part of it. And I think, Howard, I'm sure, I can't speak for you, is that the reason why you decided to jump into Advance UK and give it everything at the latter stages of your life? And you're not old, you're just vintage, right? That's the way we like to say things. Like a fine wine, That's my new thing, that is now, Road, isn't it? Do you think it's because you're looking at the future generations and you want to leave them with a country that they can thrive in, that they can prosper in? Is that what motivates you?
I think what motivates me is anger. The anger of what's happening to our young people. I've got a 34-year-old daughter. We adopted her. And I told you she drives a 44-ton truck, and she's got a heart of gold. She's getting married in April. She's gay. She's getting married, that sort of thing. And she is so sad about what's happening in her life, and she's always asking Dad, what is it? She doesn't understand politics, but she understands life. She's street smart. And I talk to a lot of people, and interesting, I speak to a lot of people who've got umpteen letters after name qualifications, and they're as thick as two short planks when it comes to life. And from I mean it in the nicest way possible. But from what motivates me is I do want to see an honest, driven, and I want our, well, it's a cliche, we want our country back. And I always remember when Lee Anderson said about we want our capital city back, and he was accused of various things. And I'm quite close to Lee. I'm not anymore, but you know he's very supportive. He was very disappointed that I've gone to Advance UK. I said, oh, don't worry, we'll see you here soon, Lee. And it's always been a bit of a laugh when I said that to him. But I'm not trying to avoid the question, but I genuinely am worried sick about what's happening to our country. And we need, and young people are being brainwashed by people, especially in the education system. I'm seeing so many things now. You know what happened to the days when, I mean, you're probably too young to remember this, but when I had exercise books at school about which would pile up and hit the ceiling with my Osmeroid and Platigman pen, ink dropped, writing like mad, my finger covered in ink on that thing, writing. Now they can't even write a page on using Word on the computer. And I'm looking at education. We're going to, I look at results. I look at the awards of people. Okay, unless you're in the know, unless you're in the elite, unless you've got stacks load of money, forget it in life for people. And you know, there are people living near me who can't afford to heat their homes. And when I see things like, oh, I've been offered a heat pump or something like that, and I talk to them about it. I'm not anti-environmental improvement in life, but don't hit people in the pocket. And probably the big motivation for me is to get the cost of living crisis a historical phrase. I want us to be prosperous. You know, I hear Ben saying that. Ben motivates me by the way he talks. Ben is one of those sort of characters that he's an understated individual, incredibly nice person, always responds to everyone's emails, letters, and all those sorts of things. That doesn't happen in anywhere else I've met. I'm still close to the Tory. I'm very close friends with Penny Mordaunt. You know, she was leader of the House and holding the big sword in the coronation. And you know, you saw me with Priti Patel there. And there's a lot of other people that I've still got a lot of respect for, but they're not necessarily my politics. But one thing we all agree on is that we've got to get rid of this Labour government, and they should never ever come back ever again in any form. The left, and the splitting the right thing winds me up as well. I see that Jeff Banks has put out a tweet today, and I went to school with him. He's you know Jeff Banks, the clothes in the suit, and he also was married to Sandy Shaw as well. Puppet on the String. He was married on. Do you remember that? In the Eurovision, little things like that. Yeah, exactly. But he's actually saying, "Come on, Nigel, Tommy, Rupert, Ben, let's get together." And I've gone back. I've responded to him on his tweet. I simply said, "Yeah, Tommy, Ben, and Rupert's a good fit, but not with Nigel Farage." And but again, I've been forced to say that, and I don't want to say that. This thing, and I spoke at one of the Whitehall things when Tommy was actually in prison. I spoke in Whitehall. And I didn't see far right thugs in front of me. I saw decent, honest people who are worried sick where we're going. And so my motivation is based on being angry, and I really want to make things better for the people coming after me. I really that's not bullshit. That's from the heart. I'm worried sick for this country.
Yeah, I just want to share this. Sorry, Rogue. I just wanted to share this on the screen in light of what Howard's just said there. Of course, we've got an exciting event happening in February, Howard. Myself and Rogue are looking forward to being there. And of course, as you're part of the college, I'm not privy to some of the information now. I've been blocked, I think, almost. I've been kicked out of the college. Not literally, no. Ben is going to be announcing what he believes, and I think a lot of the country believes, is the number one issue a lot of UK citizens are troubled about, and that's on immigration. And on the 7th of February in London, you can get your tickets on Eventbrite. If you go to Advance UK's website, there's a link there. You can book your tickets. Get to listen to Ben and other speakers and get to meet some of us as well. That's if you want to.
I need to get mine. I haven't booked mine yet.
You haven't got a ticket yet, Rogue. That's disgusting. That's disgusting. Right. But so please go to the website because we have a vision for the UK. This is the restoration, of our culture, and also the big issues around immigration, because consecutive parties have not got to grip with open borders. They really have not. They've come up with all kinds of ideas, but they've never been able to get it over the line. And it seems to me that Brexit, taking back full control of our borders, it was not delivered. Boris Johnson didn't deliver it. Farage left the playing field. But what we have in Ben Habib is someone who is not just a slogan man, but someone who understands the legal framework and what it takes to get things over the line. Leaving the ECHR. He has this idea in his mind. When we get into power, when we get into number 10, not if, when we do, our policies will be ready to go on day one without being challenged, without the Supreme Court's interference, because we would have already had the most powerful legal minds looking at those policies, crafting them, and then, of course, them being financed in the right way, so they cannot be challenged. So immediately on the ground running, we would have policies that would be effective and deliver the change that we need to see this country saved again. So I just wanted to, I just wanted to share that, because I think it's important, Rogue, that we encourage others to get there. Howard, are you excited about February the 7th? Because it's the big policy launch, I suppose. Well, it's kind of an extract, a draft of our immigration policy, isn't it?
Well, it's an important sort of a watershed for us. It's our first policy announcement, and that's very important for people to realise that we are a real deal. And one of the big things, it is immigration, etc. we're talking about, but the big thing that Ben is coming on about at the moment, now he brought it home to you again at the college meeting the other night, is that our culture. It's the culture that matters in this country. See, one of the things you may find me a little bit of a problem with you, Richie. I'm an agnostic in that sort of thing. But I believe in Christian culture, Christian values, goodness, and all those things. And I grew up in a church school, St Bartholomew's Primary School and church, and I was very close to the Reverend Ian Garden there, and I sang with my little ruff around my neck, singing Ave Maria at weddings, and got my 10 shilling note.
Oh, cutie!
Could you give us a rendition? Could you give us a rendition right now? Have you still got the vocals for it?
No, mine comes
Ave
out
Maria.
No, mine comes out like Robert Plant and Led Zeppelin now. So, but at that point, when I was about 13, 14, I was dedicated to become a vicar. My vicar wanted me to do that, and I haven't lost faith in goodness and being decent, moral, and that's my mother-in-law. Unfortunately, died recently. She's a devout churchgoer and things like that. The guy who's I'm a good friend with, who's head of the CEBR he's actually sold the company now. He's a devout churchgoer, and he always pulls my leg on about it. He thinks I'm really a Christian at heart. I don't know how to define me, but what I'm trying to say is everyone's welcome in Advance UK, provided you have the faith in that goodness and honesty and all those sorts of things. And Ben has it in droves. He's an amazing character. I don't say many good things. I mean, I love Seve Ballesteros because I'm a big golf fan. He's one of my heroes. I'm not making Ben a hero yet, but I think when he, after this first 2 or 3 policy announcements, I think the country will suddenly realise, hey, we mean business. We're not just and that's the important thing that matters.
I want to give a shout out here to one of our regulars, Rogue. I have to do this. We like to bring our viewers in, Howard, and it's one of our favourite followers here. It's his birthday, so happy birthday to you. It's before it is. Rogue, can you see him there?
Yeah, I'm wondering whether that's on the 7th of Feb or if it is today.
Oh, right. Right, I got you. Well,
I'll say happy birthday anyway in advance.
Well, talking about birthdays, just to remind everybody, I do it every show. Mine's the 1st of February. I just thought I'd let you know. Right?
Oh, right.
So, anyway.
Okay.
So thank you for that. So, Rogue, our time's almost up. The show is coming to an end. It's been fantastic speaking. We could speak for hours and hours, I'm sure.
Absolutely. We'll have you on again, Howard.
Yeah.
But
I'd love to. Thank you.
No, it's amazing. My last question is really about what is actually happening at the moment with our beloved Keir Starmer, who is trying to banish X. would Ben do something like this?
Well, the whole aspect. I've just written a couple of articles, one on free speech, and I bring this up quite, and it really hurt so many people to see him lie. I suppose he expected it when he's standing next to Donald Trump. I think it was outside Chequers. We're a bastion of free speech and always that. And when he sat in, I think, the Oval Office, he said the same thing when J.D. Vance challenged him on that. He said, "Oh, we're free." He's done 12 U-turns, as well, and all those sorts of things that are going on. He's got no idea what he's protected and surrounded by people saying, "Oh, you're great, Keir Starmer." And that is one of the problems. That's why another thing about I challenged Ben some time ago. Are you going to surround yourself with sycophants? He said, "No. I mean, I've got a college to do that for me." And of course, the college isn't. No, well, college is exactly that. It is there to produce policy, and if he doesn't perform, he goes. I mean, what other leader would actually set up a system to get rid of himself? Potentially, that's why he is so special. And all your listeners and viewers should understand that this is what he's about. Ben doesn't really want to be the leader or the prime minister, but he's doing it because he's just as angry as we are. And he's the best possible person to do it. And he's creating a mechanism to put him under total scrutiny. And, Nigel Farage just came in, for the general election. I'm sorry to bring up reform again. And I texted him when I fell out with him. I said, "You've got 200,000 members now. Why don't you put to the vote your leadership? You're obviously going to win, but at least you'll have a mandate because they voted for you." But the point is, he just came in and said, "Right, down you go, Richard Tice." And bear in mind, he's put a lot of money into the organisation. You down, and Ben, bye-bye. There was no discussion, no democracy. And that's what's wrong. Reform will implode this year. I guarantee it.
So it is ego, isn't it? There is a lot of ego, and actually Ben is the least egotistical person I think I've ever met. So I'm fully in agreement with you there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Howard, if people want to know more about your work, of course, we know you're precious to the college and you're a great asset to the party. You really, truly are. And we want you to continue with your campaigns because I think they're important. How can people find out more about you? Where can they go to support you? Where can they go to be part of the campaigns? And if they would like to leave a donation to support you, how can people do that?
Well, the actual website to go to, it's got everything on about donating, signing up. And signing up is for free. That's all it is. It's fairfueluk.com. Fairfueluk.com. I've actually launched something today, which I think a bit of fun. If you go to the homepage of fairfueluk.com, you can see how much the campaign saved your car or your truck or your motorbike. You can type in miles per gallon, the fuel type you've got, and the annual miles you do. And that's how I got that figure. Early on, I said you nearly 500,000 to save on an articulated truck. Just put diesel in, Mini, Traveller, and miles per gallon you do, and it'll tell you how much we've saved you since 2011. So fairfueluk.com. I'm also on X as Howard C. Cox.
Yeah, and folks, we're going to leave all these tags and links once the post edit goes out from our guys that do that kind of thing. So you'll get all those, and people hopefully will come across Howard and support your work as well. And hey, we're looking forward to seeing you. We really are, Rob.
Yeah. Well,
absolutely.
Well, let me come to Wales. I mean, I used to play rugby in Llanelli. Yes, what? I did. I played against Ray Gravel. People
did you
like
really?
That.
Oh my gosh!
I told you I'm old. But I was a back row forward, and I got to a sort of a weight that nowadays these people on the wing can do 10-second 100 meters with my weight now, and I can't even see them, yet alone catch them. But anyway, I love rugby's the greatest game on the planet. I love rugby.
Brilliant.
Well, you are welcome to Wales anytime, and we're looking to have an event very soon, so we will be inviting you to that.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for coming. Speaking about events, though, we've got one coming up soon. I'd just like to remind our viewers, as I'm trying to produce this at the same time here tonight, we've got one on Wednesday here, believe it or not, in the place where you played rugby, Howard. Yeah. We've got it in my hometown of Llanelli, which is which is in my hometown itself. So if you want more information, please contact us on wales@advanceuk.org.uk. The event, of course, is free, a chance for you to meet other members in the area. And if you're not a member and want to know more, please come along. I'll be there with the team, myself and Rogue and everybody else, and we'd love to meet you as well and get to know you and share any ideas you may have with us. Because one thing we've always said on our show, myself and Rogue, we always say this: we're a family, not just a political party. And I think people are grasping that, aren't they?
Yeah,
Well, that's what
I think it's so beautiful. So beautiful.
Yeah.
Sorry, Howard.
No, sorry, Rogue. I was just saying Ben said exactly that at our meeting a few days ago. He feels he's part of a family, and that's that's not a twee statement. It was a genuine feeling. I promise you that.
Yeah, thank you. Well, Howard, thank you so much for coming on and agreeing. We've got to get you back on. In fact, you know what? I think I want to get you back on with Paul Burgess. I think you and Paul Burgess would be brilliant on together, actually.
Oh dear. I can't.
Rogue loves him.
You've got to get your facts right with Paul.
Evidence.
Amazing.
Yeah. He is.
Take care.
He is.
Thank
Now,
you so much.
just before you go, Howard, just before you go, I just want to say, what do you do on Saturday mornings normally?
I don't know if is it Waitrose or Sainsbury's, Jenny. I'm available all the time. You know, if I'm not available, I can't do something.
Well, I'm asking that because on the 17th of January we are launching our breakfast show.
Okay.
So there you go. There's your official invite.
Yeah. It's going to be. It's not breakfast. It's Rogue. Do you want to tell our viewers what we're doing on the 17th of January? The idea, what we're going to do, and everything else.
So we're investing everything into politics, and so sometimes we need a little bit of an outlet. And actually, everybody likes to know what's also going on. So a little bit of light-hearted gossip, a little bit of understanding what's happening with so and so and so and so, and actually just getting you all in the fold and just having a bit of chill out time with a hot chocolate or a cup of coffee and a croissant, and then we can have a bit of fun with you guys. So that is our brunch show on a Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be also like a gossip channel. Really, we get all the magazines out. You know, what are the royal family up to this weekend? What is, you know? So it's going to be very different from this. And how one of the things we've always tried to say, Rogue, isn't it, that the Richie and Rogue show, it wasn't launched as part of Advance UK. We had just happened to be leading Advance UK here in Wales and complementing it because we want to reach a different audience. And we do that through, obviously, alternative media. And we've had many people join the party as a result of coming on this podcast, you know, which is what the aim is. But we must appeal to a much broader audience, because if we're just preaching to the converted each week, then we're not going to grow. So it's essential that we get that message out there. We get around the country. And on the 7th of February in London, make sure you get your tickets at Eventbrite. Ben's going to be there. It's going to be a fantastic time. And you're going to hear a lot on our policies as well. So I just want to say goodbye to you. I hate this part because Rogue hates me kicking people off the show. Don't you, Rogue?
Yeah, so I was finished. I was about to tell you that because I'm an agony aunt, because I used to write for magazines and work for the BBC as an agony aunt on different radio shows. Well, that's going to be where you can all write your questions to me. Howard, have you got a question you'd like to ask? Have you got a trouble that you're working through?
Jenny, I've known Jenny. Jenny's my agony aunt. She's lying on the floor with our dog at the moment, stopping making sure it didn't bark. So
bless you, Jenny.
So what's happening about this breakfast? I'm happy to do. Count me in.
You come on, and then you can be part of my panel. So if somebody asks me an agony aunt question, you can give your advice too. How's about that then?
Oh dear.
Well, Howard, I can tell you she's an expert on menopause. So I don't know if you know anything about that. But she's very good at that. She's having a hot flush. But
I'm going all blushy here now.
Yeah. But thank you, everyone. To all our subscribers and followers, don't forget to follow us on all the social media platforms while Howard cools himself down. I've really enjoyed tonight. It's been great to get to know you, and I hope our audience, there's a lot of love in the comments there for you, Howard. A lot of support for what you do, and thank you ever so much for coming on. Rogue, would let's say a few final words before we kick him out of the room.
Just to say that we love you and we support you and we are grateful for you. So thank you for being you and for all that you are doing.
Well, my final bit is say thank you so much for what you're doing, and please, I will do anything to help you in Wales. If I'm available, I'll be there with you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Howard. God bless you.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye,
Night.
Jenny. Bye, Howard.
Well, that was
What
great.
an amazing man. Do you know what? Oh my gosh, he's such as he's right. You know when you go like with Ben, like you look at Ben and you just like, oh Ben, you're just so cute. Howard is exactly the same. He's just this amazing guy, and I love him because he swears, he's funny, he says it as it is, he's real, but he has a passion for this country.
Yeah, he does. Absolutely does, Rogue. And, you know, when we met him in Newcastle, if you remember, at the launch,
Yeah.
He's tall. He's quite tall, actually, isn't he? He's quite a tall lad.
Really?
Yeah. And he's got that lovely London kind of Cockney accent. It's just fantastic. And so, yeah, it's great having him on. And I know that there's lots of love in the comments here. And by the way, folks,
So many. It's so lovely.
can
Can I just say,
you
I've
see the
got a
comments
really
on there,
bad
Rogue?
cough. Huh?
Can you see the comments on there so you can?
Yeah, I can see the comments.
Right.
It's just that I can't put them up, and I'm normally it's me putting them up. So I feel a bit like you're too far away.
I know.
Can you come back?
Yes, well, I shall pop to see you soon. You know that. I come up tomorrow night. Yes, I come tomorrow to see you. And then we got the show on Wednesday, obviously. Don't forget, folks, we broadcast every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. and Sunday.
Are we doing it live?
Yeah, no.
Chile?
Talking about that, Rogue, let's bring this up. Let's talk about it because this will be our first tour date, if you like, in Llanelli on January the 14th. Admission is free. You can leave a donation at the end of the event if you so desire, but you don't have to. It's a free event where myself and Rogue, my co-host, my beautiful co-host, will be there in the flesh, in person, to meet you, our wonderful, wonderful family, and answer any questions. There's going to be some fun. There's going to be, a lot of chat and questions. It's going to be a whole mix of things. And in fact, we've not even put the program together yet, so we're actually crapping ourselves right now.
It'll be all admin.
Like, what?
Always is.
I know. I have these ideas. Let's book a date. Let's do a tour. And then she's like, "What are we going to say then?" I'm like, "I haven't thought about that."
Llangollen will be coming soon. So we're doing on Friday. We're doing Newtown, and then once we've done Newtown, we're going to start working our way up north, because that's actually really important. Because a lot of people in the north of Wales are asking, "When are you coming? When are you coming up our way?" Well, in the next few weeks, we will be releasing dates and venues as to where you can come and see us.
Yeah, and make sure you open your emails. We've had real problems with our members not opening emails because we tend to communicate a lot through those emails on events and dates, Rogue, don't we? What's coming up and everything else. And we also know.
Sorry, I just want to say, if I sound like a man today, I do not identify as a man. It is just that I've got a chest infection.
I
Can
know.
you send me a little bit
And I have to say to you, in fairness, when you phoned me earlier, left a voice note, I was like, I don't think she's going to come on tonight. She sounds bad. And so I've got to say to you, well done. Well done. You are a warrior woman. You're a warrior woman. I think that's it. That's a wrap. Unless you want to put something else in there, Rob, before I go to some of the stuff I need to share with folks quickly.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, you sure?
What did you actually say? I actually didn't hear you.
You just don't listen to me anyway. Look, I'm not only in the studio, you're still not listening to me. But anyway, yeah, don't forget, folks, go to our website. If you want to contact myself or Rogue, please go there. There's a contact page. If you are of a mind to support the work that we do, because this is all voluntary, obviously, all you have to do is go to our website, hit the donation button there, and you can leave a small
Katie
donation.
said husky sound is very alluring. It suits you.
Yeah. Can I finish my part? Can I finish my part first?
No, I was getting too excited about her saying that I sounded husky. It suited me.
She still interrupts me even when I'm so far away from her. God bless. No, seriously, thank you, Katie. You do sound a lot better with a husky voice. It's that kind of. It sounds like you've been smoking cigars. That's what it sounds like.
Is sexy.
People can't see; they can't see these comments. I'll put them up now. So before we go, bronchitis is sexy. Yeah, I get that. I spent years living in Malvern.
Sorry, everybody.
I missed the start of the show. So watch it back. Yeah, don't forget, you can watch all these broadcasts back, by the way, folks. These videos are edited.
Breaking news. Silver Surfer I used to live in Malvern too. Which part of Malvern did you live? I bet we walked past each other in Malvern. Wouldn't that be weird? You know that
Probably
sliding door thing?
So the comments are coming in here. I'm just trying to catch up with them because there's a slight delay on my mic and yours, Rogue, I think. So, and my apologies. It's my fault Rogue's audio is not as good as it normally is tonight. It's because I took the microphones.
He took my microphone and I'm now having to do it through a camera.
I know.
Imagine that.
I'm so sorry, my love. Well, it won't happen again, will it? I'll make sure of that. So, yeah, so we just want to say thank you, everyone, because the reason why we say that is because my battery's about to die as well. But we've done an hour and 40 minutes tonight, Rogue.
That's doing well.
It's been a good show. I've really enjoyed it. People
And
are
I
saying,
love Howard. I want to get a t-shirt with Howard's face on.
Yeah.
And we can support him. In fact, I'm actually going to donate to him. And I think every one of us should donate because he's lost funding. Yeah. And I think it's really, really important that we, the family, actually stand behind him and actually help and sort of donate. So let's do that. Let's contribute towards helping him and his cause because it's for us, ultimately. That's right, everybody. Let's go.
Absolutely. So if you are on X, please follow Rogue at Rogue Unfiltered. I'm on RW Taylors. Please visit advanceuk.org.uk for further information on the events that are coming up. We will be launching our breakfast show. Now, we've said January the 17th. Knowing us, you never know. It could be any time. So just keep an eye out for that brunch show. There'll be croissants, as Rogue has said, and we'll be going through the papers and the magazines and having a bit of a gossip. And want your interactions, want you to come on as well and share some of your thoughts and comments as well. And if you've not subscribed, please, please, please consider subscribing. Someone's just put on you, talking about subscribing. I got to bring this comment up. This is funny. This is not a Flat Earth affiliated channel. Unsubbed. Bye.
Do you know what? They've been given a few digs throughout, and I just think they're brilliant. I love it when people come on and actually have alternate view. I think it's brilliant.
Absolutely.
And actually, I'm a flat earther. No, I'm joking.
Absolutely.
Sometimes.
So, I think we're coming to this. That's a wrap, I think, for tonight, Rogue. It feels weird not being next to you in the studio. It's just weird.
I know, because normally after the show, we give each other a high five. We're like, what?
We do, yeah, we do. Yeah, I know. We do.
Ready?
Which way?
Ready?
Right.
Dickhead, see you right. Go.
I can't do it. I can't do it like that. It's not me, right? But yeah, just want to say huge thank you to everyone on behalf of myself and the wonderful
me,
Rogue. We love you all, and don't forget we will be back live on Wednesday. We've got a whole bunch of different guests coming up and lined up this year. 2026 is going to be a big year. There's some big things coming in 2026 for the Richie and Rogue show. You will be hearing more about that, won't they, Rogue?
They will. But don't forget you've got a meeting tomorrow at 5 p.m.
I know I have a meeting tomorrow at 5 p.m. You've reminded me, yeah, I know. Once I've washed my clothes, I will be on my way to meet with you and a wonderful supporter, member who wants to get involved, and we're looking forward to meeting him as well. And can I just ask people, if you would be so kind, once this broadcast goes out up live on your YouTube channel, just share it on Facebook, share it all across your platforms, because it helps grow the audience as well, so we can get the message out there. And Rogue, would you like to tell them about our Facebook page? Because it's important they connect with us on there as well.
Yeah, so we are Richie and Rogue Unfiltered on Facebook, and to be fair, we have done really, really well. So in the last 30-40 days, we've managed to get 6,500 people, but we want to get up to 10 because we want, thank you very much, Buffon, we want this message out. We want to get it out there. Right, I'm going. I love you all very much.
Yeah, I was going to say, Rogue, you've done really well. You've done really well with your voice. You've done really well, guys. I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, and stay safe, everybody. We love you. Have a wonderful evening, and I'm just going to set the outro now. Hang on 1 second before we go. Set as outro.
I'm just going to give them all a hug. This is my virtual hug to everybody. My hands look massive, but here we go. Here's a hug from me, Rogue, and Richie to you. We love
We love you. God bless you all.